my life changed dramatically in 2006. My background was business, and I sold my company in January of that year. And in the July, my marriage broke up. In my opinion at the time, it wasn't my fault. Obviously, I later learned there's equal responsibility. And so at the time, I had some money and I had some free time. My hobby was always yoga. I did yoga teacher training in the early 90s, and meditation I started in the mid 80s with transcendental meditation. So it was always kind of my hobby, but in business it was kind of, I'd be too stressed to meditate, I'd go jogging, and you know, if I went to a yoga class it'd be maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks. So all of a sudden I found myself with lots of time on my hands, and I started doing lots of workshops and self-discovery. I redid my yoga teacher training. And then I went over to America to see Byron Katie to do the work. So I learned how to do the work of Byron Katie. And there was a massive thing that I realized in that time was that all of the suffering is in our mind. So that was a revelation at the time. And that 100% of our suffering is our thoughts. And even doesn't matter what kind of obstacle you might have in life, could it be bankruptcy or illness or divorce or bereavement, it's the way we see life. So I was gradually getting more and more kind of information and things that I'd be studying. And then I had the yoga center from 2010, and I started taking retreats and pilgrimages to India. So we did 2 to India every year, one to Rishikesh and one to Kerala. And during COVID, during the second wave of COVID, I found myself in Kerala. If anybody's been to Kerala, it's a beautiful part of the world, in a place called Varkala. No one was there. I was the only Westerner there. Everything was closed. There's no cafes, nothing at all. And I thought, I'm going to start writing a book. I felt really, really inspired. So I started to write this book called My Earth School. And it was all of the kind of things that I'd realized since 2006. And so on the spiritual path, I realized there's kind of 2 main things. You could say there's the progressive path and there's the direct path. And people might say, well, you need one or you need the other. You really need both. You know, in yoga we have prakriti and purusha, we have spirit and matter. So I thought, because you need both, there's too much to put all in one book, so I'm going to start with the progressive path. So in yoga we call that antikavana shuddhi, which is how we manage to open our hearts and clear our minds. And there's a lot to that. So this book is all about antikavana shuddhi, how to manage thoughts and emotions. So again, in yoga, we look at a mature human being as someone that can manage their thoughts and emotions. And many people can get to 50, 60, 70, and they can't control their thoughts and they can't control their emotions. So it's a major tool in life to be able to control those. And I found that there was some amazing techniques that enable you to control the thoughts and emotions. What that does is it gets you to a point of non-agitation in the mind. Non-agitation in the mind gets you to the point where you can go into what they call the progressive, the direct path, where you realize who you really are. So when we say that all the suffering is our thoughts, you realize then that all of the work really is in the mind. It's in freedom of and from the mind. Would anybody disagree with that? Would you all kind of agree it's the mind? Mm-hmm. It's the mind. So on that point, the first kind of major exploration I had, hi guys, was in meditation. So meditation, I had this technique of transcendental meditation, which was good, but it never really worked when I was getting really stressed. So I remember being at home Googling, where can I learn this thing called Kriya Yoga? When I was 18, I remember getting this book from a second-hand bookshop. All of you have probably read it, Autobiography of a Yogi. And I remember him saying there's a direct path to God consciousness, Kriya Yoga. So I'm on the Google finding where I can learn it. And it was either London or Assisi. And in those days, it was like £5 to get to Perugia with Ryanair. So of course it was going to be Assisi. So I spent a lot of time in 2007, 2008 in Assisi learning Kriya Yoga. And at that point I thought, well, this is kind of all I'm going to need. And then the yoga center opened in 2010. And one of our first overseas visitors was a guy called James Schwartz. Some of you may have heard, he's written many books on Vedanta. So he came and gave an expose on Vedanta, which I thought was very nice, but Kriya Yoga is all I'm going to kind of need. So then a couple of years later, someone came to the centre and donated his book, about 30 of his books. And I reread his book, How to Attain Enlightenment. And the light bulb went off. And I thought, oh my God, I've got to go and see James. So I'm Googling where I can find James. And he was giving a seminar in Cologne in Germany. And then I got on the Vedanta bus. So then I had meditation and I had Vedanta. Vedanta is great because you kind of start to see the world as consciousness, not as this mind-body sense complex. But it's not enough. You need to clear your stuff. So then, if you want to clear your stuff, then there's these modalities. One of the most laser-guided approaches is the work of Byron Katie. Are you familiar with Byron Katie? She's actually been here. A few years ago, she was down here. So that's the idea. There's no thoughts that you cannot put to inquiry and clear. In fact, you can become like Teflon. There's no thought that can stick to you. And you just got to get the habit. The mistake I made early on with the work is once I got the technique, it's such a simple, profound technique that I thought to myself, I don't need the technique, I can do it in my mind. Big mistake. You've got to keep writing it down. And the reason is the mind, as you probably know, has 4 main aspects in yoga. And the loudest aspect is the emotional mind, manas. It's the loudest aspect of the mind. It's not the highest part of the mind. The highest part of the mind is buddhi, the intellect. But it gets drowned out by the emotions. And who's remember the book, The Inner Chimp? You remember the book about the inner chimp? So this is the conditioned mind in psychiatry. And in life coach, we call this part of our mind the flatmate. This is the part of the mind that doesn't care if we're happy or not. It just wants to be right. People commit suicide listening to their flatmates if they don't think there's any other alternative. So the idea is you start to realise you're not your thoughts. You start to realise that there's something you can do to control your mind. And the first thing with my clients in life coaching is, one, I get them to realise they're not their thoughts. And then 2, to give their flatmate, the conditioned mind, a name. And it must be a non-toxic name, something neutral. Because as you know in the Bhagavad Gita, the mind can be either the greatest enemy or your best friend. And as you start to control the mind, life gets easier. And we can think of our mind like this big mental garden full of weeds and flowers. And the weeds are the negative thoughts that keep coming up. And if we don't know how to control the negative thoughts, we just identify with them. And then we become those thoughts, we become our anger, and we become agitated. So the work was the real crux to start understanding how I can clear these thoughts. So in yoga, we call this swadhyaya, introspection. But when I originally learned yoga, they used to say, sit down, sit still, watch these problems coming up and clear them. That never worked for me. How can I clear thoughts or forgive someone if I'm really annoyed? It just didn't work. So when I could actually do a worksheet and put it to inquiry, I found this is swadhyaya. So then you've got, what I found then is there's a way to control my thoughts, to clear my thoughts. Then there's, what do I do in this situation when it's probably going to happen again? Problem with partner, children, parents, siblings, people at work. Relationships are how we kind of grow in life. And I remember going to the school for work, maybe it was my second time at the school. And Byron Katie would do this thing very much like non-violent communication. It was like role play, where she would respond how you're meant to respond in the situation, not react. And I remember thinking, God, that's really, really good. And there was a guy there, a guy called Marty Epstein, that said, this is non-violent communication. This is how you can actually be in a situation without running away, without defending or attacking. And you can actually stay there with love and compassion. So I thought, wow. So I learned non-violent communication. So this was, once you'd kind of cleared a thought, you cleared a situation with someone, then you're going to understand it's probably going to happen again. If it's your boss, someone at work, the situation is probably going to happen again. So now you've got to weigh how you can respond. And again, it's a very simple technique of feelings, needs and requests. So this was starting to build, and as I was kind of changing my life, I started life coaching at this point. The other thing I learned quite early on, when I was at Ananda doing Kriya Yoga, was a thing called a Ho'oponopono. I don't know if anybody's come across that. And a teacher called Martin Carruthers, who in those days called it soul work. And this was, it's also, there's other things from psychiatry, family constellations and timelines from NLP are also in soul work. But this was the idea that you could get a client to come in to see you and they wouldn't know what's wrong, but they knew that there was something, they knew that they weren't really, really happy. And through finding out you go through a part of the body where they were feeling uncomfortable, and you might say, what colour is that? Is that part of your body? What shape is it? Is it male or female? And you get their limiting beliefs. It's an amazing process. So then we had this energy work where you could find people's unlimited beliefs when they didn't even know what the unlimited belief was. Then you could, with laser guided practice, look at the actual thought and clear the thought. And then you could, with that person, go through and say, this is how we're going to respond. Because you know in life, the two main things about living a skillful life is one is how to respond and not react. How to respond and not react, and the other is to keep calm. In fact, keeping calm is the key to a skillful life. But it's not easy. So all of us have been through stages where it's almost impossible to keep calm. And these are the techniques we just keep on doing until we've got tools in our toolbox. So this book is all about opening your heart, clearing your mind, the different techniques that I learned along the way, and also the kind of journeys that I had. I was traveling a lot. I still travel a lot. So as Hugh said, I do pilgrimages to India and to Italy. And again, pilgrimage is something I would highly, highly recommend. It's not that you're looking to go and find God somewhere, because we know that we are consciousness, but it puts us in this vibration of purity and self-purification. So again, I talk about pilgrimage in the book. So it's really kind of a journey through skillful living and Shuddhi to get to the point where you're living a nice, happy life. But as we know, that's not the end. So you know from yoga, from the 8 steps of yoga, the end in yoga is samadhi. So samadhi, there's a few different types of samadhi, with seed, without seed, sahaj samadhi. But basically, yoga is an experience. So although you can have the most amazing meditations, by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you can still be arguing with someone in the traffic. So it's an experience. So what we need knowledge to understand that, to understand who we really are. And that knowledge is Vedanta. So although Vedanta is crucially important, it won't sink in if we haven't got this kind of stabilized, calm mind. So this book is all about clearing the mind, opening the heart. I'll have a new book coming in November, which is called After Earth School, which is really focused on Vedanta. Focused on when you realize you are the self, you are awareness, and in Vedanta we call this nidhyasana, the techniques we use to keep kind of focusing on the fact that we are consciousness. And you still have to toggle between body, mind, sense complex and awareness. Otherwise, you might as well live in a monastery and not be grounded at all. So if you want to kind of get the shopping, look after the children, do whatever you need to do in life, you need both. So I think that kind of covers the things about the book. There's a few photos of different things in the book, and every chapter covers the different things that I've learned. And it starts with personalities. It starts with the Enneagram. Who's familiar with the Enneagram? You come across the yeah. So that was another amazing thing to learn when I learned that we don't all see life the same way. I always thought we all should see the life the same way. And I remember on a soul work course with Martin, one of the ladies said, "Leon, you're such a 7." I thought, what's that all about? I got home, Googled, I thought, my God, how accurate is that? And I wanted to learn all about Enneagrams. So Enneagrams is the spiritual personality test. There's 9 personalities. None of them are higher or lower. They're all exactly equal. But you get to have so much kindness and compassion for people because we come into this earth with a program. And until we can change our reactions, we're going to be that program. And our journey is to overpower that program to respond differently. Otherwise, we're always in fight or flight. So Enneagrams was a great thing to learn. And then in yoga, I learned with James Schwartz Triguna Vibhava Yoga, which is the gunas. Some of you may have come across the gunas, the different energies. And you know, we all have these three energies are always manifesting all the time. We just don't recognize it. Like when you wake up in the morning, if you're feeling exhausted and you want to just press the snooze button, we've all had that feeling. That's tamasic energy. If you wake up full of beans, you've got loads of things you want to do in your life, and your mind is going at 100 times an hour, that is called Vajasic energy. And if you wake up and you're clear and you're fully refreshed, that's Sattvic energy. We really want Sattvic energy. We really want to work to get more Sattva, but there are times when Rajas and Tamas are important in life. When would Tamas be important? When you want to go to sleep. You know, you don't want to be wired but tired. You want to have a good night's sleep. Rajas is important for discipline, for getting things done. So they're all important, but as you kind of get more into the spiritual path, you'll realize that if you want to meditate, you want contemplation, inquiry, you want to get Sattvic. And again, through Triguna Vibhava Yoga, you start to realize how to do that. And it's not difficult to learn. If you're feeling really tamasic, what have you got to do? You've got to get energetic in some way. You know, eat pure foods, go out for a walk. And to get Sattvic, you've got to slow right down, meditate, read, contemplate. So those were the gunas. Karma yoga was another thing that was amazing that I learned through yoga, and obviously everybody here is familiar with karma yoga. But one of the things that I didn't actually know at the time was that you're never in control of the results of your actions. That was amazing to me. I thought, you know, if I went to do something, and if I did all the right things, say for example, I want to have my car MOT'd, I'm going to make sure there's money in my bank account, I'm going to phone the local garage and take my car there. So that's aligning myself with the universe. But then again, I might get there, the garage is shut, someone's ill, they've had a flood. We're never in control of the results of our actions. So again, in yoga, we take those as lessons and blessings. There's no victims. There's no poor me in life. There's only lessons and blessings. So that was karma yoga. And so in the book, I kind of go through all these different things. Sedona method, some of you are familiar with Sedona method. And I get into the nitty gritty, like relationships, which is where the kind of the real work is. And in life coaching, we call our inner circle our pets. And it's an acronym for personal emotional trainers. These are people that we're learning from, and they're training us. We might not even realize it. But if we're having a problem with our brother or our partner or our children, there's a reason for that. We need to know how to respond differently. So relationships, when I'm coaching, it's always all about relationships. It's never about anything else but some relationship in their life. So relationships. And then again, the body temple, I talk about different diets we can have, fasting. It goes all the way through to hopefully get to the point where you're having a skillful life. Many of you probably do these things anyway, but this was kind of my experience. And these aren't the only modalities, but they're the modalities that I found that worked. So you might find there's many other modalities that you use and practice, but for me, in my sadhana, this is what kind of worked for me. So any questions? There's quite a lot, really, to these. And it's quite hot. Yes, Govinda.
I quite enjoy the way that you've brought different aspects of the Indic traditions together, which really formulates an understanding of your journey. And for that reason, enjoy the title of the book as well, because it invites you to understand that the earth or life is a journey through which we can obviously embody our yoga as a means to not only improve our lives but create clarity for those around us as well. So how much of that was inspired through kind of your continuous meditation of that in your life? And obviously, as you're quite a pilgrim yourself, how much of that is continually inspired by what you're seeing around you as well?
Joe, life is sliding doors, and it kind of the right thing just happens at the right moment. And it's kind of all these different modalities, they just came up at the right moment, and they made sense. And so it's all sliding doors, and it's being open to learning something new. But then you do get to a point where you find there's enough now, because really the idea is just to be able to quieten the mind, but it is kind of being open to a friendly universe and knowing that the universe, there's a higher power that's always working for us, not against us. And then you see everything as blessings and lessons. And then it's exciting. It's a big curiosity to see what's going to happen in the field at any one time. And life is the guru. Life is the guru. It's the obstacles, they call them pratibandikas, they're coming up all the time. And our life lessons are how we respond to those. So yeah, so thank you for that. Thank you.
So you believe in a divine plan?
Absolutely. I believe in an intelligent universe.
So what happens if we kind of, go somewhere that, we may not be, the best place to go to?
So I think in life, we have a certain amount of free will, and we're all searching for happiness, but often in the wrong places. And so life will kind of bring us back. So, like in the laws of karma, we're kind of brought back. And if you believe in reincarnation, it may be many lifetimes, but life is guiding us all the time. And it's until we find that we realize that happiness is within us, it's not in the objects. And otherwise we're going to come in this world all the time. Our desire is going to be facing out. And the spiritual path is desires facing in, realizing that you're full and complete already. There's nothing you need anymore. But for most of us, we think, I need that car, I need that partner, I need that new meal in that new restaurant, until you're really happy with what you have. And then everything else is kind of cherry on the cake, not something you need to be happy.
Something that has happened to me a few times, and probably, I don't know, it may have happened to other people here, is when I've been about to take a big decision about my life, I'm so sure about I'm going that way, and then life took me somewhere else. And that has happened a few times in my lifetime, and I'm so certain, and my focus and everything was geared, to go that way. But
and I would say, so when that happens to me, I just know that there's a reason for it. I may not know right now, but if you look back on your life and you look back in kind of 10-year increments, you'll think, wow, I know why that happened. But you can't see it in the moment. It's when you kind of look through, in your 40s, your 30s, your 20s, you think, oh my God, I know why that happened, why that was drawing me that way. Mm-hmm. But in the moment, it's hard, especially when in your heart you feel I should be doing this thing. But it's trusting the friendly universe and knowing that we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, because we have to make it happen also.
Yes.
We cannot be sitting down and waiting for it to happen. We need to also put some input.
We do, because if we don't make things happen, the universe will make things happen for us. So so we might as well make things happen according to our wishes and preferences. And if possible, we want to be able to, with our desires and preferences, look at contributing to the world and giving something back. So that's kind of aligned in with the universe. If that makes sense, yeah.
Do you find dreams, come to you?
I do, but I can never work them out. And by the time I've got out of bed, I've forgotten them already. But many people have, those kind of lucid dreams. That's never really happened to me, unfortunately. Yes, sir.
Can the work help you with feelings that don't have thoughts attached to them?
Yes, because when we have that situation, you can freestyle and write. So when you've got a particular situation, then you have what they call a judge your neighbour worksheet, where you look at that particular situation. But if you say, I'm just feeling sad and I don't know why, the suggestion is you time yourself, put your clock on for 5 minutes, and you just start free writing, without thinking, because then there's another part of your mind that's working. And then once you've maybe done an A4 page, with a highlighter pen, you go back and look at it. And you'll find there's things that have come out that you weren't conscious of. Whereas on a Judge Your Neighbour worksheet, when we do that, it's when you really know what the problem is. But often we don't know what the problem is. We just wake up feeling not great. But there's usually a thought attached. We just can't consciously find it. Yeah.
Another question.
Yeah.
How essential do you think this way of thinking about things are for the younger generation, for example? And how, through different inspiring moments in your journey, do you think the teachings and lessons that are there in your book could help others, especially in my generation, who are kind of waking up to these spiritual truths now?
The massive problem with society now is distractions. And if I think I've got 3 children, they're all adults now, but phone's a big thing for me, you know. And so we are all continuously distracted. With the advent of AI, we're going to get more distracted. We're going to get brain dumb. And so, you know, getting into meditation, getting out of your thinking mind, tuning into the universal mind is, my God, it's a must for everybody. Otherwise, Elon Musk will be programmed into our heads. We'll have glasses. We won't know what to think. We'll just be automatons. So we need to get out of our thinking mind and meditate and get into neutral gear, which is out of the thinking mind. And, you know, there's no book that you'll read that doesn't talk about that. Eckhart Tolle, Byron Katie, they all talk about being in the now, out of your thinking mind. And that's the key. It's very simple to say, but as we all know, it's not easy to do. But I think probably for the generation coming now, it's harder than ever because there's so many distractions. And so at least when I was young, we only had the phone box down there, which often didn't work. Nowadays, there's so many distractions.
And you're a pilgrim, as you said, and so much of what you've written is an inspiration that's come through the unfolding of that journey, right? How do you think that could go hand in hand with the youth's kind of want to travel and explore the world, and through that find some spiritual truths?
There is nothing like pilgrimage. I mean, but you've got to try. I mean, it doesn't matter what tradition. So I've done pilgrimages in the Buddhist tradition, the Christian tradition, the Hindu tradition, the Sikh tradition, the Jain tradition. They all are deeply, deeply touching. And, you know, if they're youngsters in the UK, maybe I'd just recommend the Camino. It's the 500-mile walk from France to Spain. It is deeply, deeply touching. On all of the pilgrimages, you find that you can literally open your heart. There's nothing like it. I remember I was on a famous Indian pilgrimage in Kerala called the Sabrimala. And this one, you have to have coconuts on your head. Are you familiar with that one? It's for Swami Ayyappa. You dress in black. And I had a black shirt with one pocket and a dhoti. And I was doing this pilgrimage with my Ayurvedic doctor in Kerala. And because you only have one pocket, I had a little roll of money and my phone in my pocket. And I was taking out my phone to take photos, and I didn't realise that all of my money had gone on the floor. And someone ran up and gave me my money back. And it was, I don't know, it was 100 quid or something like that. And I thought, where but on pilgrimage would that happen? And they said, Ayyappa Swami, and it was just beautiful. So pilgrimage, you see another version, you see the best version of everybody. And in whichever tradition you try, it's amazing. They're all really amazing. And like in the Hinduism, you've got the Char Dham, Badrinath, Kedarnath, Gangotri, fabulous. And we got lots in Christian tradition, of course. Yeah.
You said you see the best version of everybody. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's work in progress.
You know,
I like to think we're gradually awakening. So there's one thing, understand their consciousness. So there's another thing, they call it tripty, where you're really enjoying the fruits of that understanding. And that is a lifetime of work. Because, you know, you may think your awareness and then someone can annoy you. And you think, oh my goodness, what did Ram Dass say? Go and live like a month with your parents, whatever he said, to kind of get back. So we're all work in progress and we're gradually awakening. But it's kind of just don't stop, because you see that you're getting kinder, more compassionate, more accepting, and it's a journey. Yeah.
I just wondered, you talk about sort of letting go of thoughts and everything. When you're going just through daily life, are you listening to inner feelings or kind of gut feelings, or are you looking for signs around you in our physical world that might be giving you a message? Just wonder how you...
What I try to do is come out of the thinking mind.
Right.
So there's a few things like, if I'm going for a walk, Byron Katie has a lovely meditation walk, or just simply look without thinking. Look without thinking. You want to get space, pause in between the thinking mind. So that's my kind of daily practice. I'm looking without thinking, or if my mind is very agitated, Katie has this thing where you look at everything with a first generation name. But you can get into looking without thinking. You just keep coming, and don't beat yourself up when the thought comes up, and just slowly come back to looking without thinking. And then also heart math is very good. You can start with breathing in and out of your heart. You just get into that heart coherence. And the idea is to get out of our thinking mind, because it's an addiction. And for most of us now, it's a serious addiction. You can look at it like it's like gambling or drinking or drugs even, because we're stuck in the thinking mind. So our practice should be, meditation is one practice, but daily get out of the thinking mind. That should be the practice. And then you get more intuition. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's funny because yesterday, all day, I was like ruminating. I was like thinking about somebody who annoyed me very badly. And all day I was like, oh, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that, how does she do this, that, blah, 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 blah. And then in the evening, when I saw her, all that melted away.
Good.
Do you know, kind of, I look at her face and I felt compassion. And I thought,
Good.
all that day, the whole day, I've been like torturing myself.
I mean, the quickest way to clear, as you just said, is you go to compassion. In Byron Katie's Judge Your Neighbour, number 4. So what was your thought about that lady? What were you thinking? She's annoyed me, she's annoying.
Oh, yeah. I thought, oh, God, like she's crazy. Why she's
So say if it's
behaving like this? Why she's kind of accusing me of this, that, when I haven't done anything? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, so the Judge Your Neighbour might say, my friend is accusing me of something. So number 4, Katie calls the God position. Who would you be without the thought? And you get to compassion, you get to kind of try and be empathic for that person and see, because it's almost never personal to us. And another lesson is, we take things personally so quickly, and we're products of our conditioning. Going back to the Enneagrams, we're products of our program and our fight or flight. And so if you can get to compassion, you can clear it very quickly, as you did when you saw her. It naturally happened for you. But otherwise, there's a process you get into compassion, you get into empathy, and it clears it.
I think it helped also the fact that when I saw her, she also kind of realized that she had been a little bit funny. So then kind of that helped me to feel that compassion.
Yeah.
Because if I had seen her last night and she was like, oh, then probably that would have ignited my anger.
Yeah.
So then what do you do in that situation? You understand?
I do, yeah. But they say like good friendships, like a poor friendship is like a glass jug. You break it, it breaks. Drop it, it breaks. A good friendship is like a golden jug. You drop it, it never breaks. Because we have more compassion, we have more patience with our friends. And both, you don't want war, you want peace anyway, which you probably felt last night.
Yeah, it was the
You
peace.
wanted some peace.
Yeah, we both wanted the peace.
Yeah.
So,
So that's a nice friendship.
So that was good, really.
Yeah, good. Good.
Could you talk about your observations of your travels to the Himalayas and the sort of environmental impact that you saw?
There is masses of impact. I go every year. I go every September to the Himalayas, and every year it's changing, unfortunately. So hotels, houses. It's sad. I'm going to Sikkim in September. I haven't been to Sikkim before, and that's meant to be kind of untouched. Let's see, because you go high to Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh. It's full of new buildings. God knows how they're allowed to do that. It's so sad, because then you get landslides. There's a big landslide a few years ago. It's very sad. But now with the kind of narration, the narrative going on with Donald Trump, etc., climate change has taken such a back seat. It's so sad, because it's still happening. We're still right in it. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got this amazing list of things going on in that area.
Masses are going on.
Karmically connected to kind of
It's really sad. I see it. I've been going to India. My first trip was 86 or 87. I've seen massive changes, and it's kind of with development. And yeah, you don't expect it high in the foothill, high in the mountains, the foothills of the Himalayas. But there's hotels and all that kind of stuff. And I bet none of them have got planning permission. Yeah. Mark?
Yeah, it's relevant to the youth of today. They're difficult concepts to take on, but actually some of them are quite easy. How do you get the youth, the children, just to give them a few techniques to allow them to have a quieter mind, an easier life? Once my kids are older now, but 15 years ago, I stopped for Lent. No TV, no computer games. They hated me. Life wasn't much better, but what happened was everything was calmer. We still had our arguments, but the arguments never went high. They finished quite quickly. We spent more time together. It was a funny time, I must admit, but it was nice. It was sort of taking me back to my childhood a little bit, where you got bored and you went on your bicycle. So that's quite simple, really. But how do we?
I mean, it's like mindfulness,
Yeah.
meditation. Those are the kind of things to start with. But it's really hard because there's so many distractions now, and they've got to see the value in having a quiet mind.
How do you?
It's hard. I mean, for a teenager, how would you tell them that it's good to have a quiet mind, or to not desire things? You've almost got to go through it until you realise that desires aren't where it's at, or an agitated mind is not where it's at. It's got to be a revelation, because that individual's got to be the one doing the work. Although as a parent, of course, you can definitely guide them.
So,
Yeah.
Do you have any videos on YouTube?
I have, under My Earth School.
My Earth School. Okay.
Yeah, and this will be on there soon. So yeah.
Okay, so we can
Yes.
find you there.
My Earth School. I'm on Facebook and Insta. Yeah. So there's lots of places. And come on the retreats. We've got the next one in September. So we've got a tracking retreat. We've also got Rishikesh in September, which you probably know is a lovely place by the Ganges. So we go to Rishikesh, and then February we go to Kerala on Ayurvedic retreat. So lots of holidays planned.
I would like to do a Camino one day.
Camino is wonderful.
Yeah, I would like to do. How long does it take you to do
It
that?
took me 31 days.
31, wow.
Yeah. And it was one of the peak experiences of my life. Yeah.
How many miles a day were you walking?
I want to say about 15. I was starting very, very early, because I did it in July and August of 2015. And there's two reasons. One, it gets very hot. And two, you want to get a bed when you're in your destination, because in July, August, if you're not there early, there's no beds anywhere. And so you either don't have a bed, or they put you up in a big gymnasium in the local town. So I always got there early. I was finished by about 1 o'clock every day, and I would go get my bed, wash, and go sightseeing. So if you don't start early, like the guys that are drinking in the evening and start at 11, they get there, there's no bed, there's nothing. So I was always the early bird that caught the worm. Yeah. Hey, come here. But there's a lot of people that do that start early. You soon get the gist of it. That's what to do. Yeah. Good. Any other questions?
Yeah, this is volume 1, right? What have you
Volume
got
2
planned?
comes out in November.
What have you got planned?
That is called After Earth School, and that is all about Vedanta. So realizing that you are consciousness, you are awareness, and it's the techniques of Nidhyasana and some other ones that keep you kind of reminding yourself who you are. So that's coming out. I'm almost finished, but I need to set up some people to read and check my grammar. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.